The title Pinkering comes from a gift that I got from a dear artist friend of mine in Belgium, and I've always had a huge interest in jewellery and kind of little personal mementos. So when thinking about the title, I had gone through like loads and loads of different iterations of the title, and I hated all of them. And then I had the work in the show that's the self-portrait, and the subtitle is Pinky Ring. And I usually always wear a pinky ring anyways, and a huge amount of the show kind of comes from the idea of like devotional, personal objects. So pinky ring kind of just, I like looked at the title one day of that work and was like, oh, that's the title of the show. Last year I spent about a month, just over 3 weeks in Brussels with a good friend of mine. And I'm just like constantly sketching these little compositions, I suppose, like little sketches of, I guess, kind of what you see in the exhibition, very crude, some of which are in the publication as well. But I had kind of been working on them as thumbnails for paintings, and kind of decided that I didn't want to do any painting at all for the moment. But the work behind me, the pull system, the funnel and the ball and the arrow, that kind of, I drew that when I was over in Brussels, and it like really just jumped out to me, and I really kind of became obsessed with this composition. And this is like the third or fourth iteration of the work, because I just needed to get that out, and that kind of then fed into the whole visual language, I guess, of the rest of the work in the show. I think it's this like very sacred, personal thing that people do, and I think when I think objectively about it, it's like really strange that we kind of take this, and it could be any object, like anything that's been handed down to you or that you've bought for yourself, and you kind of like bestow it with this meaning that's only personal to you, and it kind of makes it this priceless object because its value kind of goes beyond its material. And then I think especially with jewellery, it's interesting because the value of the object itself as a material good is so high, and then you also have this extra layer of like personal meaning that's been put onto it, that it's this like metaphysical, almost like spiritual connection that you have with this like small object that I really just, that idea is like so strange to me, but also so beautiful, and it like makes me so happy to think that there's these little things kind of scattered around that everything has a story for the person who owns them. All of the works started off just bare plaster and stone, and color and other materials are something that I have like really been quite frightened of in the past. And I was talking with some friends, and they kind of said like, oh, I used some ink to paint on one of the reliefs that I wasn't going to use. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of nice. And then I was worried about the cohesiveness, I suppose, of the show, but then I just decided like I really want to start painting on them, but I didn't want to use just paint. I also love, because plaster is like super absorbent, so things like alcohol-based inks and stain, you know, you put them on and they get like absorbed straight into the material, so it can have like a really interesting effect. And then I kind of just was like, well, if I'm gonna start experimenting with materials, I'm gonna use kind of anything that I can think of, like wax and stones and fur and all sorts. So it was kind of like, it was a big, I suppose, experimentation for myself as well. It's the first time I've worked with these kinds of materials, but yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out. But yeah, it's an experiment for myself that has kind of just like gone into the show, I suppose. So I have some residencies upcoming in the latter half of this year and next year as well. And I kind of really want to continue with this same line of work, but I'm really wanting to kind of take them off the wall. I really, really want to make like big floor sculpture. So that's kind of what I'm planning on next. There's 2 reliefs in this show, which are sort of diagrams for floor sculptures that I want to actually produce. And I wanted, maybe originally was thinking of having them in this show, but then decided to keep it on the wall, but to allude to the fact that there was going to be some sort of floor sculpture in the future, or maybe not.